Okay, great. So yeah, thanks everybody for taking the time to join us today. We'll give it a few minutes. I'm just going to ask if everybody can kindly just mute, and then you can unmute when you want to participate. You can come on video as well. We want this to be an interactive workshop. So you can come on video, you can come off mute when you want to ask questions. Just give it 2 minutes before we begin. Okay, we'll give it a minute. We'll start right on time. We'll give 1 more minute before we begin today. Okay. Participants, if you can kindly just mute. Thank you. And then we can unmute. Thank you so much. Okay, so we're going to begin. So we're getting some background noise. So I'm probably going to have to ask participants if you can kindly just mute, bottom left corner, just mute. I think we have Ying Yi, maybe not muted, just so you know. Yeah, perfect. And then maybe Kendall, Tyler, just not muted. If you can kindly mute, I can see here. I'm going to ask to mute. There you go. Oh, I did it now. Perfect. Thank you, guys. And you can unmute when we have questions, so we'll get there. So thank you all for joining us today. We had a topic where we wanted to revisit from last week before we begin. But before we begin, if you may not know who I am, my name is Dr. Fallon Patel. I'm your host today for the Optical Accelerator series. We've been having these meetings for the past several months. And so they have been building on each other, but also they are individual topics. So you can kind of pick and choose where it is in your business that you need to focus on. And if anything, it's great to just join us live. You can ask questions. We can get those questions answered because there's no better way to learn than to be here present and fully engaged, is what I believe. So thank you so much for taking the time to join me here today. I really love it when you guys are all here. I love that you're on camera. It makes me feel just so happy to be able to provide this support and these sessions for you as well. So last month, we talked about building your dream optical team. So we talked about hiring, onboarding, and retaining at a leadership level. So I just wanted to recap here. So in terms of behavioral hiring, we went over the differences between behavioral hiring. We went over the differences between onboarding, having a 30, 60, 90-day plan. And then we also went over some incentives for sustainable growth. Does anybody have any questions from the last month? You can feel free to unmute, or you can use the chat as well. I'll open up the chat. Good evening. So any questions from the last month? So there are worksheets that follow, and these videos are recorded. And so I encourage you, if you have a team, you can get them to watch these videos. They are shared on YouTube, and there are worksheets available as well. So if you don't have to go through this alone. So I encourage you to bring your manager onto these calls, bring your team onto these calls, or share the links with them. And then as you have questions, feel free, to always bubble them up. You can stop me, interrupt me, put your hand up, unmute. We really want this to be as interactive as possible. And we want the questions to be productive for everybody. So can you share where to find on YouTube? Yeah, maybe we'll have Samantha will post kind of the links there for you in the chat so you can find them on YouTube. Through today, we will be going through a sales process, and you're going to get a special gift if you haven't visited us before. It's a custom GPT script generator that you can use in your practice. That will be very, very useful for you to use. So stay tuned and stay alert with me. Okay, so let's begin. So no questions today. We'll begin with the series. So today's topic is going to be how to train for every staff member into a
Seminar
sales champion.
கதைக்கிறேன்னு பிறகு
Okay. Yeah, I'm going to start meeting people as they join us. Sorry about that, guys. And then I'm just going to ask Sam, I think if you go to the panelists, you can through each person and just kind of mute them when they're unmuted.
Yeah, I made myself host again so I could do it. I wasn't host
Perfect.
before, so I couldn't.
Awesome. Okay, thanks, guys. Thanks, Sam. Okay, so train for growth, how to turn every staff member into a sales champion. Now, why this sounds kind of probably icky for the most of us. Well, I mean, I get it. We're in healthcare, right? I understand. I know how it feels. We feel that, we're in healthcare. We went to school for all these years. We're a part of a clinician team. Why do we have to worry about sales? Well, here's the thing. School teaches you great to be a clinician. They teach you how to, be the greatest optician, optometric assistant, doctor, manager. But what they don't teach you is in the real world, when you get out there and you have dreams of having your own practice and you get into private practice, your own practice, how do you stay afloat? And for any business, sales is really, if you ask any business owner, what is the number one thing out of the entire business wheel? Like if we're talking marketing, sales, operations, hiring, legal, so HR, in all the different aspects of your business wheel, what's the most important thing? It's sales. Because without sales, you really don't have a business, period. And, you really need customers, you really need patients, or you really don't have anything. And so this is why it's probably the most important part for a business to grow and to stay afloat. So without sales, there's no business, right? Or else you're just focusing on, tactics and marketing and really going into debt, not generating any income, and you don't have a real business. So this is why sales is so important. And I think in healthcare, we all have a problem asking patients for, to compensate us for our value. It's because on our value system, we often put care as our first value, and we think sales is kind of an icky thing, but it really doesn't have to be. And so there are mindset shifts that we all have to go through together to overcome that barrier. Just know that if you're not providing, a profitable business, if you're not, at the end of the day, your checks and balances, you're not having enough funds to reinvest into your business, that patient you really want to care for loses, right? You can't bring innovation. You're not giving them the treatment that they deserve. They're not getting, the latest and greatest technology that they deserve. And the only way to be able to provide those means is to have sales. It regenerates. You can invest it back into your business to better your patient care. So that's really what it's about. It also gives you good life, a good balance in life. The extra money can make you feel less stressed. Often financial concerns are a big reason why individuals become stressed in their personal lives and in business lives. And so it can really, shift the game for you. So this is why sales is so, so important. Good evening, Jayashri. Okay, so let's begin. So the core problem. So if you're optical, and here's the thing with sales, if your optical only converts when your strongest person is working, you really don't have a motivation problem. You actually have a training system gap. And we'll go over these points more in detail through the presentation and what I mean by that. So think of it. If you are in a situation in your practice when your strongest sales lead is gone, is not there for the week, not there for the weekend, do your sales flatline? If that happens, then you have a system or a training gap, because all that knowledge and energy should not be reliant on one person on your team. Everybody should harness, these skills that we're going to be talking about. And so you have a training system gap that can easily be addressed, right? And so why this matters? Because if we don't have that, we often have inconsistent capture rates, meaning, inconsistencies amongst different employees. Some perform well, some perform very poor, inconsistency across locations. Some perform very well, some perform very poorly. You have uneven premium upgrades. So these are things, let's say your anti-reflective coating or your diagnostic tests, if you're an optometrist, or anything that you're trying to offer as a premium for these patients, you have kind of uneven sales across the board. And the sales often dip when that one person's off. We went over that. You have a super sales person that you're reliant on for the business. When they're sick or there's something happens to them, the business completely starts to crumble or doesn't move anywhere and stays flat. And then staff avoid pricing conversations as well when you don't have a proper system. So often, when price comes up, it's always an issue that we have. And so often they just kind of avoid it. And so sales don't even happen. And so your growth becomes unpredictable, right? Like you don't know how you're going to do this month, next month. You're kind of winging it. You're kind of hoping, and you really don't know how you're going to do. So you're not forecasting because you just don't know. So why this matters? So the truth is your optical will never outgrow the clarity, confidence, and skill of the people presenting your solutions. And here I have like a tree here showing all the different requirements that you need to be able to grow. But also when we're talking about teams, and so I didn't introduce myself properly. So I actually operate 5 clinics, have over 50 staff members and over 20 associate doctors. So team management is kind of where I spend most of my time, in leadership training and development and personal development and learning about teams. And my sole job is to really learn how to lead and build the team around me that can grow my business. So that is my sole job, and that's where I focus. And so when we're talking about how to get your optical to grow, we're talking about the people as well, because none of us are working independently. We all have members with us, correct? And so the analogy I use with our team is that imagine there's like a wheelbarrow, right? You have 4 wheels on a wheelbarrow. Let's say those are the 4 staff members that you need to open your doors, okay? If one of those wheels is not working well or is kind of rugged and, rusty, your wheelbarrow can only go as far as your slowest wheel, right? And so when we're talking about teams, your team can only go as far as kind of your weakest employee. And so everybody needs to develop skills to a certain level of excellence for you to want to move momentum and get the wheelbarrow going and rolling smoothly ahead in growth. So you have to think of that analogy as well. Can the screen be made larger? I honestly can't read, although I know this is what you're saying. Oh, okay. Let me see. I think I can do that. Let's do that. Here, I'm going to do content only, okay? Probably that's better. Okay, so let's go ahead so you can read the letter. So thank you for that, Myra. And so here's the shift. So the shift is really going from personal-based selling to skill-based selling. And what do we mean by that? So when a person has personality-based selling, this person heavily relies on inherent traits and hoping, notice the word hoping, confidence develops naturally. This approach often is inconsistent and depends on the individual's charisma rather than repeatable strategies and frameworks that can be proven and repeated over the test of time. Skill-based communication focuses on training that builds repeatable performance. So if you think about systems, right, they replace luck, right? There's no hope anymore. This is a proven framework that's going to work. It ensures a consistent and effective sales process through strategic communication skills. So there are nuggets of how the sales process works for you to be good at this job, and anybody can learn it. So what we're trying to say is you don't have to rely on someone who's like your best salesperson. Sometimes they come around and they're great, but you really need to get your entire team up to a certain level for you to grow your business and move it forward. And that's what we're going to teach you today. So here are some examples. So what am I talking about? Just so you kind of have an idea. So personality-based selling, it's when, let's say the patient has an objection in the optical. They say, that sounds too expensive. A team member that has personality-based selling, when they rely on just their charisma and their own intuition, they might say something like this. Well, it's one of our premium options, but we can definitely look into something more affordable if you prefer. Does anybody know what's wrong with this? Anybody want to write in the chat or come off mute, or anybody have any ideas how that's not a great way to answer to an objection? So this is when I view it as the staff member retreats. When someone says it's too expensive, right away they say, well, this is what it is, but I'm going to work with you with something that you want. And so this is their retreating. And now, do you think that this person in person A, the patient, is actually going to go for that? Let's say we're talking about a premium upgrade. No, because the team member didn't even explain it, just retreated, and now it's going to offer something lower to begin with, right? So it's a different reaction to, let's talk about a better way to do it. So a skill-based communication, these are skills that will be taught. When the patient says, that sounds expensive, the team member will say, I understand that most people feel that at first. The reason is this lens costs more because it reduces glare, eye fatigue, and helps your prescription perform better long term. Since you're on screens all day, this usually makes a noticeable difference for you. ... And then after, you should follow through with the ask. Would you like me to go through this with you? Or would you like to add on this package to your glasses? You have to ask. Do you see the difference in the two responses? So the first response, it's like another analogy. We have diagnostic upsells in our clinic, where we talk about the value of an OCT scan for patients. So when a staff member or mom, I hear it all the time at the front, and I can tell which staff member needs training, they'll often just present it. The patient will say, oh, do I really need to do that? I mean, I didn't do it last time. Team member says, oh, don't worry, you don't have to do it. We're just go ahead with the normal procedure anyways. To me, that just means like they retreated. They didn't even try. But if we were to go back and teach this person some skills, the better way to do it is to first start with empathy, a connection piece, so that they know that you heard what their objection was. So that's where this framework said, I understand. Most people do think that at first. So you can respond by, I understand. You may not have gotten it last time. I can understand that. I see that. But the reason why we recommend this scan or this test is da 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 da. So we're value selling, where we're explaining why this matters. And we're taking the patient through a hero journey, is what you call it. So you're the guide, and you have to explain to them the benefits of what you're offering. So you have to say, but the reason why we recommend this is because it's great for your eye health, or in this case, the lens anti-reflection, it's a great lens coating. It costs more because it does this and this and this. You mentioned this, you have a child or whatever, they're on screens, and it's usually better for them. Would you like to now go ahead with it? Would you like to now proceed with it? So you do have to ask, ... So there's just simple things that you can work on. And we will give you an optical script generator for this as we progress through our presentation. But this is kind of where we're at. So I hope everybody understands the difference there and what you could be doing differently the next time you get an objection. So training. So the training, I just have to close this. Why optical teams struggle with sales. So most practices, they often train casually, right? They explain the products once, they correct only when the numbers slow down or they drop, and they rely on those natural sellers. So you rely on your natural person. There's no real process. There's no real training. People are just kind of thrown in, and you kind of rely on someone that's good. Why optical teams excel with sales. So the high performing practices, they train weekly. They practice those conversations. They track the behaviors, and they coach discomfort. So what do we mean by coaching discomfort? This is a big one. So our sales lead I love her for this because she's always bringing those difficult conversations to me or to employees. And really, you do have to get comfortable, feeling uncomfortable to do something different to get a different result, to get a different action. If you keep doing the same thing over and over again, you're not going to get a different result. So you have to get your employees into this mindset where you need to coach discomfort. When you're feeling uncomfortable, when you say something that's different, you're going to feel that. And that's what you lean into and you practice that as it becomes more natural. Then you move on to the next challenge or opportunity that you need to work on. And it's always going to be uncomfortable. But this is where growth lies, is on the other side of that discomfort. So we talk about this in our meetings every Monday, for example. So let's say, for example, my sales lead brought to me, oh, a certain location, doctors. Our doctors are not recommending certain scans. Our staff's recommending it. Our doctors are not recommending it. Okay, so now I realize that they're shy. The doctors just don't want to talk about sales, as they never do. They just kind of expect patients to go for testing without them explaining it. So I have to now have meetings to change the mindset as to we really value these scans. They're very important. If you don't believe in them and you don't talk about them with your patient and the staff has said, hey, the patient wants to discuss this with you, you've lost that authority. You've lost the benefits of talking about the scan. So right now we're working with mindset, and then we'll give them the tools and the skill set of how to say things to customers, right? But you have to first have the mindset and the belief there. So if you don't believe a certain product is not working or why it's important, or you don't explain why it's important and you don't get the belief or the adoption, nothing else will follow through. So this is where you got to kind of assess your team and see where they're at and kind of train and help them with that. And again, you don't have to do all this. This is where you can bring your manager in, or, if you have leads for different departments, this is where you can bring individuals in to help you with that. And so motivation is really not the issue. So most team members, they care about their patients, right? They want to perform well. They don't wake up trying to underperform. I don't think anybody will sabotage that relationship with another human day to day seeing patients, right? Most of the time, motivation is not the issue. And that's what I meant in our first chart. It's they don't have the skills. They don't know how. So we have to help them through that and help them through that discomfort. And so what's missing? It's the clarity, the language, and that feeling of feeling comfortable under pressure, right? This is normal. We have to set that expectation with people. Have them understand this is completely normal. I'm here with you. I'm going to help you walk through that, right? You can pair them up with somebody who's doing really well in the clinic. Here, follow this person. Let's get you having those difficult conversations. How about you role play with me? It's always very good to lead by example. And we'll go through that a little bit more. So where the conversations actually break during that sales discussion. Usually it's discomfort around price. That's the objection we always get from patients. We have an internal fear about sounding salesy, right? We don't want to sound salesy. That's why some people don't begin, altogether. Lack of product mastery. So that's another one, knowledge. So everyone does have to have the background knowledge. So some training, learnings, lunches that you have with your vendors are really important to help you with that knowledge and understanding. And then avoiding objections. So when someone says, oh, I did that last year, or do I really need to do that? Just throwing the white card up, just listening to what the patient wants and not trying to guide them through your journey, avoiding the objection. And then not knowing how to respond in the moment. So again, we need to equip our team with sound bites, with scripts, so that they know how to answer when a patient asks them these questions day to day. So people usually default to safety, right? When they're approached with these difficult conversations. And safety lowers your sales, lowers your upgrades, it lowers your results, period. When they want to feel comfortable, when they want to avoid that confrontation or discomfort or that difficult conversation with that patient about why this product is better. And it happens all the time. Very, very normal in healthcare. So personality-based selling relies on, as we discussed, charisma, confidence, natural persuasion, and usually one strong closer, right? Like in a team, you will have one person who's just carrying the weight. This is where then you see results are fragile and it's inconsistent, and the outcomes depends on who's there, who's working that day, right? So we don't want that. We always want to shift to skill-based performance. So this is built through everybody understanding the value, practicing the delivery. So everyone is role playing and practicing. You have repetition. You have feedback where somebody is giving someone feedback on how they can improve. And of course, you need to have KPIs, key performance indicators, or goals. This is really important. And the reason why I say this is because let's say the analogy of an aircraft. You want your practice to grow from A to B, or your plane to go from A to B, right? That plane needs to have goalposts or goals or guidelines to know where to end. If you don't have goals or guidelines, that airplane is just going to go in circles. It's not going to know where to go, and you're not going to end up where you want to be. And so that's why goals and key performance indicators are important. And if you don't have them in your practice, I encourage you to just establish, some 3 basic ones. That's what we do for the year. And you just chip away at it, kind of month over month. You try to refine the needle and you optimize those numbers. That's how you grow. Because if you don't have a clear goal in mind, your team doesn't know where to go. And they will just spin in circles too. And that's where your practice stays, right? Your optical, it doesn't grow. You just keep doing the same revenue year over year when you have the potential to go somewhere if you just establish some goals, right? So when you do this method, results become predictable. Performance is repeatable, which is great. Because once you learn how to grow and you get your plane taken off and you're going in the right direction, imagine you've learned how to do it for one revenue stream. You can repeat it over and over again for anything in our field. And there's so much out there that we could focus on to really grow. So selling from advocacy. So high performing clinics don't push products, right? They're not pushy. They advocate for outcomes. So instead of asking, would you like anti-reflective coating on your glasses? Would you like blue blocking? It becomes this coating. I recommend this coating because it reduces glare and it improves comfort long term. So patients aren't sold or saying, do you want this? They're guided, through the outcome. What will this do for me in the end? Right? It can keep your eyes healthy and safe. Having the scans will help the doctor better assess your health. It keeps your ocular health, more healthy in the long term. We're trying to prevent any disease from happening. We're trying to reduce your visual discomfort over time. We want you to have more comfort long term. So this is the kind of guidelines that people should be going through your practices. So training for confidence before technique. So scripts help. So this is that optical script generator. So use it. Here, I created this script generator, and I'm going to share it today. So you can open this up. So this is based on a few modules, webinars ago. We talked about having optical scripts ready and other tactics for KPIs. So if you're not too sure how to establish that, you can always go back to those previous learnings and work through. But this is an optical script custom GPT that we created for you all. And it's based on that method. It's based on a care method where you connect with the patient, and it goes through the series of the 4 steps of you ask it a question. Let's say I want to improve this in my practice, my contact lenses or myopia or management or so forth. You can prompt it. And once you prompt it, it'll give you good scripts that you can use in your practice. So here is a good tool that you can get using right away. Your team can start using it as well. Oh, it says unable to load. Let me see. It just went out of my thing. Oh, I think you have to be logged into your GPT. Okay. Sorry, I just kind of escaped my my presentation. But let me just get back in there. So if you're unable to load, email me afterwards, but I think you have to be logged in to your GPT for you to be able to do that. Let me get back in here. You're sharing this post. Here we go. Okay, I'm going to stop share and start it again. All right, give me a moment. Okay, here we go. And I just want to make sure. Oh, I'm sharing another window. I'm sharing my desktop, so I don't want to share that. I want to share that. What happened here? Okay, I'm going to start with this one. Is this working? No, hey? I'm sharing on another desktop. Please switch. Okay, let me try this again. Sorry, guys, bear with me. Open that up again. Training for growth, how to hire. Let's get in here. Okay, and let's share that again. Perfect. So now slideshow. Great. It's working now, right? And let me know. Let me just open up the chat. Okay, perfect. Thanks, guys. So that was the custom script generator. So sorry, yes. So you can use that and plug it in, but I believe you have to be logged into GPT. Oh, you're logged in. Okay. So maybe email me afterwards. I'll see how I can help you there. Usually, that is strange that it's not working. Unable to load. Okay, we'll figure that one out after. But use it definitely. It's a really cool tool. So it has all of the frameworks built in behind that you can use to really have good scripts for your team. So if you're, struggling with not knowing, this is where AI is just phenomenal. So anything script, copy, we all should really be using GPT, Cloud. There's various different platforms in there that can really just write anything for you. And if you're thinking copy, actually, Cloud is a really good one, like for websites or anything that you're thinking for email marketing. That AI tool is a lot better than GPT. Great. Okay, so understanding transform. So the reason why, so scripts help. So before your team is ready and training confidence um, before the technique, you want to have your team to understand why. You want to have scripts, and you want to train the why, like why premium lenses matter, why coatings can improve lifestyles, why bundled options are important. It simplifies decisions for patients. We talked about bundling your upsells, your premium packages in prior webinars. So you can always visit those again as well. And why price reflects protection. So confidence grows from clarity. So you really have to step by step, sit down with your team and go through the why and why this is really important, because then you're getting to the belief and the adoption. All right, wonderful. So next we're going to talk here about short training versus long meetings. So we used to do these, and we still do from time to time. We have these big staff meetings. Everyone gets together. So everybody can be on the same page. They usually take an hour and a half. We call everybody in. What happens when you get out of those meetings? Does anything ever happen? Usually, yeah, I can make my screen larger again. usually nothing happens. And that's because usually nothing happens. And that's because you know, too much information in one sitting, and then there's no follow through. We don't have repeated short doses of training. We go for one big training, there's information overload, and then nothing is retained, right? And so you're welcome. And so instead of having those long-term meetings, focus on having short training sessions. So here, this is really important. You shift to those weekly, just 15 minutes, focus on your product. So product focus. And in order for you to get this done, you have to schedule it. So schedule it in your calendar. Every week, 15-minute focus with your team. You also want to schedule some time to role play, right? You're going to role play real objections. So this is where you can use AI, come up with a bunch of objections, or, from experience, okay, you can be that tough patient and role play with each other. You can have a template created for this, so it's more standardized across all your employees. I suggest you focus on one of those goals at a time that you want to fix, one KPI metric. So get really good at it before you move to the next one. So focus on one. Usually, for example, for us, we pick three big ones for the whole year that we want to focus on. So I set a big goal that I want to deliver by the end of the year. And we have three ways we're going to get there. So three of mine, and I pick usually the lowest hanging fruit that's going to give me the biggest bang for my return on training. I will pick those three products or services, and we focus on growing those by X amount. But we focus on one at a time. So we'll focus on one of those KPIs and make sure everybody understands, how we're going to get there before we move on to the next one. And of course, repetition. So this fluency builds authority. And also it's really important to celebrate those wins and acknowledge when you do move momentum, because you gain more confidence to continue going. And so how do you make those KPIs meaningful? So KPIs are not punishment. Everyone gets kind of upset when there's numbers and metrics and they're held accountable to a spreadsheet. Really, they're just feedback and it's data. And really, we can't run a business on guessing, on intuition. At the end of the day, we need data, and we have to be able to improve on some metrics to be able to know where we're going. And so that's why it's really important to track, right? So we have certain KPIs. You can have capture rates, premium lens attachment rates, multi-pair KPI, a warranty KPI. Numbers will reveal where that discomfort lies. Once you start tracking, I guarantee you've heard this before. Once you start tracking, it only gets better, but you need to track. So if you're not tracking any numbers and you're not looking at them every day, you don't know where you're going. So really, really important to track. And so when those KPIs do drop, right, what do you do? So, it's really important you approach these situations, and this is where that management experience comes into play. You don't ask that person or the team, why aren't you selling? Why aren't you doing this? It's not encouraging. Instead, think of it like a scientist and try to dissect, the different areas why this might be happening. So you can ask questions, where is the confidence missing? Susie, like, are you not confident in this? Or is there something that you'd like to focus more on that you're not too sure? What objection feels comfortable? Where is it that you're having trouble answering to when patients ask for, oh, this price is too expensive. Oh, your exams are too expensive. What is that objection? Where can I help you? Where can we role play it and overcome that? What explanation is unclear? So someone might not want to explain it if they don't have the background knowledge or they don't understand. So what can I clarify for you? And so this is where you see the results, right? It all comes down to the results where that data can guide you and based on where you need to retrain instead of it just being a blame game, which is not fun for anybody. And so we talked a little bit on our last call about incentives and when we hire and how to create incentives for your team. Here we're talking about incentives that build consistency for sales. And this is really, really important because we're talking in the department of sales. So when you are hiring somebody, let's say you have a sales lead or sales position, often in I'm going to compare big corporations, the sales leaders run the show. Okay. It doesn't matter what other departments as I brought it back to our initial entry, sales is a lifeline, the bloodline of your business. Sales leaders run the show. Okay, they're often the highest paid, the most senior, they trump all decisions because without them, you don't have a growing business, right? So this is how corporate or publicly traded companies operate. And so how do you, as a small business owner, how do you take those learnings and apply it to your business? Well, when you're hiring for a sales role, right, we often sales positions they have a lower base rate that you're paying, and majority comes from bonus, right? Because they need to have that fire. You need to ignite that fire within them, to that drive for them to want to attain, to go for more, to earn more. If you start paying a sales position a very high baseline, you will see that once their needs are met, there is no drive. And so please don't make that mistake. So just know that when you have sales roles, you need to often have a base, and majority or a big chunk of their performance should be tied to, or their bonus should be tied to performance. So it's bonus incentivized. And that's how you really can ignite that fire and change in your practice, because these are people that come with a lot of drive, a lot of passion, a lot of energy. And they're very, very numbers orientated. They're always looking at the results, looking at last year, this year, they're looking at their numbers. They're very, very good at this. So this is the type of person you're looking for. And then you want to incentivize. And so let's say, okay, so we talked about just maybe a sales lead position, but now we're bringing this back to our entire team, because we talked about how do you build every single person on your team as a sales champion? Well, you do that through incentives as well. So the compensation should reinforce different aspects. So daily behaviors, communication quality, patient advocacy, and long-term habits. So not short-term spikes up and down. You should have layers to it so that there's a reason for somebody to continue. And here's how we break it down, the 3 incentive levels. And again, I've made mistakes in this in the past where I've just had consistency reward. Let's say you set a basic goal, somebody meets 70% capture rate, 80% in reflection of attachment, and we tie in an operational KPI there as well, consistent documentation standards, right? We always want good note taking. Okay, they did that for the whole month. They receive $150 performance bonus. Great. But what happens if they meet that bonus before the end of the month? Well, this is great because you have a percentage, right? So they always have to keep working till the end of the month. But if you tie that to a numerical value, so we have a numerical value for number of units. Once they meet their units, or let's say I work for a big corporation chain, they used to have 4-week kind of sales quotas. Let's say they're not having a good month, or they already met their sales quota before the 4 weeks. What happens? Usually the last week or at the month, everything just flops. They either, if they met their goals, they kind of ruin, they don't do much, right? So the last month, the sales are just crap. And they kind of wait for the next month to start for the next month so that they have a chance to earn their bonus again the following month. So this is where you need to think about the person and what is that momentum of reward. So that's level 2. So we have a basic reward you can begin with. Then you want to also reward growth beyond just that baseline. So there's a reason to keep going, right? So if a team member, let's say they finish or they already, meet their goal, if they then surpass it by premium lens upgrades by 15% or adds additional 10 units of multi-sales, or, they can receive additional $25 per additional multi-pair or $300 for a growth bonus for hitting stretch targets is what we call it. So you always want to have those stretch targets so that there is always a reason to want to keep growing and we don't just fall flat with just basic incentives. And I'm sharing this through experience. So been there, done that. And it's so much better once you have kind of goals that go beyond just your monthly. So we have it set up as that if the location meets their monthly goal, everybody gets the bonus. And individually, if you contribute past your individual goals, you can still keep earning beyond your bracket. And so it works really well. So even though the team meets their bonus, great, they just keep going. till the end of the month. Or if they're not meeting it, you should revisit and adjust those goals, because you don't want the business to just fall flat before their end of the month. And level 3 should be a leadership reward. So if you think about people in your company, I think about this in terms of my leads or my managers. I try to reward them more long term, so more quarterly or yearly bonuses based on the way the business tracks. And so, okay, awesome. And so you want to reward those who elevate the team. So incentives here should be built on how they build the office culture, not just competition and meeting numbers. So this ties into more hierarchical parts of the business, so business culture. So you want to reward those who elevate the team, right? So your leaders. So if a team member, let's say, for example, mentors a new hire, maintains top tier KPIs for 3+ consecutive months, leads 1 weekly product training, helps raise the overall team capture rate, these are your leaders. You want to have leadership incentives and rewards for them. So this is the way we do it as well in our practice. So the compounding effect, when every team member, they start to speak confidently, they understand the value, they track performance, they feel supported, your sales will stabilize, your upgrades will increase, and your owner dependency decreases. So owner dependency decreases. And so here's where you can have reduced dependency. The new system reduces a reliance on that one rock star, the owner closing all the sales, and all those emotional pep talks that you need to have. Instead, we call it, this creates scalable behavior within your team. So the end result, predictable revenue, confident staff, consistent patient experience, lower burnout, because everybody's contributing, not just one, and training becomes your growth engine. So it's really with the training. And when I said before, your job as the owner of the practice, there's a difference between being a leader and an owner of your practice and being the boss. Okay. Being the boss is usually somebody who just does everything, right? You're going in and you're closing all the sales. You're going in and doing all the training. Everything's dependent on you. That's boss work. We all need to step into leadership. Leadership is when you bring people, you create a team that grows your business. So that's leadership. So when you are the leader of your company or the owner, you want to step into that leadership role where you're building the team that grows your business for you. And your job is just to direct your team players and guide them where they need to go. So you're not doing all the day to day, because when you're stuck doing the day to day, you will just go in circles. You're not outside of the business directing and guiding people to your goal. So that is the job of a leader. And here's an example of everything granularly that we talked about. So the implementation blueprint. So you do have a worksheet attached to this, which you will get. So you can have some action items that you can write down that you can do right away. But this is what I would recommend. So choose one KPI to focus on week 1. Look at the numbers, start tracking, figure something out in your business. What do you think will be the best return, best ROI if you focus on for the year? The easiest thing is to find something with your most profitability, easiest sales, service, or product. Because once you start generating that more profitability, everything becomes easier. So focus on the easiest, most profitable one. Next, train the why. So week 2, start going through with your team, start training the why behind that one premium product and why this is very, very important. Start role playing and start getting them to answer why you think this is important. Explain the why, get them to relay the message back to you. Week 3, role play common objections. So this is the consistent stuff that needs to be done, 15 minutes, right? Every week, role play with somebody. Let's figure out common objections. Let's spot train. Let's role play. So this has to be kind of your new energy in your clinic where you're actively doing this. And it becomes easier once you schedule and you start to do it. It just becomes the engine that keeps going. Week 4, you can start to review numbers and you can celebrate wins and then you repeat, right? Celebrating progress and wins is very, very important because it is sharing the evidence that this is working. And when people see the evidence that this is working, it ingrains a stronger belief and you'll get even better results and moves the team. right? So other people start to see, hey, so and so is doing this, I can do this too. That's how it works. So celebrate an individual, celebrate that progress, and repeat it. And repeat it again, sorry, with a new KPI that you want to focus on. So the leadership level impact. So when you become that leader, when you start to train intentionally, scales stop fluctuating emotionally, coaching becomes strategic, performance becomes measurable, and you move from managing numbers to leading growth. And this is where you get into, you can bring on a sales lead and have them focus on this, right? Have them coach your team, your manager. This should be their job. Okay, so this is actually a platform I created. It's a software. So it's called Pulse IQ Solutions. It's the intelligence platform built for eye care practices. So it's something I've been working on for a very long time. And it just turns all of your scattered data into clear decisions. You can train smarter. There's a ton of training modules in there. You can coach with confidence with AI, and you'll see your gaps and you can grow profitably. So I know there are people that have signed up. I'm going to get to you probably in the next week or two. We are in beta now. And so if anybody else wants to sign up, we are giving free 30 days to use the software, and I'd love to get your feedback on it. So we'll show you a QR code where you can sign up soon. But this is pretty much what's inside the platform. It's all these training videos, all the little things that you could think can be very frustrating to train. Been there, done that. So we created these kind of AI avatar videos. They have a worksheet and a little multiple choice quiz. And these are all under 5 minutes, 3 to 6 minutes max. So it's really good for spot training and retraining, right? That's how you get stronger and you can move your team forward. So this is all in there as well. And then this is the dashboard that you see in there, and this can be customized to your business based on, whatever metrics we can pull from your EMR or your optical dashboard, and based on the key KPIs you want to track. So we can get that data in here, and then you have a pulse on the business is the idea. You can see daily where you are, where you're not, and when your goals are dropping based on, you can set your goals if you'd like, or based on last year's performance. There's a little AI widget on the bottom right corner. You can click it. Your team, it's like a done for you system. Your team will know what to do without you relying on you, because then usually owners or managers are the bottlenecks to progress. They hold all the decisions or the power to influence change. You can now teach your team to be self-reliant, and it's a done for you system. So for example, here, if let's say patient retention is down, it will pull that and it will tell your employee what to do. These are some suggestions. It's really, really powerful. It's really, really cool. So you can train smart. They have KPIs in there. There's also staff motivation in there with goal setting. And we have a dashboard in there as well that you can have to post announcements, wins, office updates. It takes the guessing out, and you can be a lot more structured and have more goals and accountability. So this is what I was missing in my business. And so we've just created this. And so this is a QR code. You can take a look there. So when you scan that, it takes you to one of our older landing pages. Just scroll down. You just have to put your name in there with your email and sign up. I'll get your email. And then we'll get to you for that free 30-day trial. And if you're wondering more about, what's in there, our website is pulseiqsolutions.com. And that's in the webinar handouts as well. So there's a QR code on the webinar handouts. If you take a scroll of that, it takes you to our main website, which again, we're running beta. So we don't have appointments set up just yet. But for March, we should do. So final thought, you don't need more effort. You just need better structure, and training can builds that confidence, right? The more you practice, and confidence builds advocacy, and advocacy builds growth. So I think you just have to start with one small thing, lay the seed, lay the foundation, and just begin. Because if you overthink it, also, we don't begin. So I know this is possible for you. I think download the worksheets, use it, at least start writing things in there, and talk to someone in your practice. Talk to your manager, talk to a colleague, tell them what you want to do. Once you've told somebody what you want to do, that is just going to naturally move you in the right direction. So I think sometimes getting started is the hardest part, is what I'm trying to say. And so the call to action here is, if you want to have repeatable upgrades, confident conversations, stable revenue, a team that performs without pressure, start trading intentionally. So you can start today. And I think the best thing is just to schedule those 15-minute time slots with your employees and start having those conversations. I think that's probably the most critical takeaway from today. Does anybody, and Samantha just posted the Train for Growth, the worksheet in the chat group. If you want it ahead of time, you can take a look at it and scroll through. Does anybody have any questions? Come off mute, you can chat. I have some time. I'm more than happy to help. If there's any pressing, this is our community. So, we're here, we show up for you guys every month. If you're having often a roadblock or a challenge, this is where you ask those questions. You'll get answers from all of your teammates, which is really powerful as well. Okay, I'll share those worksheets as well. Has anybody done any of them yet? Like taken any of the learnings into action? Like have you, on the first webinar I started with actually sales. This is sales training, but I talked about sales because I think that once you can prove more profit and money, it just kind of propels everything else, right? And it's not just about that. So I understand if all of a sudden you have all these crazy sales coming in through your practice, which is great. You need to make sure your operations are in place. Because if you're not treating your customers well, you're not finding a way to retain them, you're not solving all the little gaps or the complaints, things will start to fall and collapse too, right? So we think about our business as, if anybody's read the book by Donald Miller, How to Grow Your Small Business, he talks about it as like an airplane. And, the right wing is sales, the left wing is marketing. Once you have sales and marketing, your aircraft gets off the ground, right? Your business gets off the ground with sales and marketing. But to keep it afloat is your big engine, which is operations. So you really do, once you start getting a lot of sales, then you have to focusing on good operations to keep it all moving smoothly. And you have to keep leveling that up each time your sales get to another tier. Your operations also has to level up. So meaning you have to scale people, teams, customer satisfaction, right? Surveys, all of that stuff really matters as well. Our riches are also, yeah, they're all there. Oh, you're welcome. Yeah. So if there's any other questions that you have, let me know. We're gonna have our next meeting will be on March 24th. So we're gonna talk about how to lead like an owner. So how to build accountability without micromanaging. So this is a really cool topic. Everybody always asks me, how do you keep your employees accountable? So this will be a good topic to join. Because we always have people problems. HR. Oh, you're welcome. And if you have any questions, next time just bring them. So from whatever we talked about today, try to put something in action, pick one small thing, get going with it. And then next week we'll start with questions. Feel free. No, every question is a great question. The others get to learn. This is how we do it. All right. Thank you so much. And I hope that optical script generator worked for you. So if you don't have it, let me know. Send me an email. I sent an email out to everybody. You have my personal email. I'll try to figure out a way to make sure that works for you. And oh, you're welcome. And yes, it's funny, we have to change our habits and start doing things differently ourselves as leaders too. AI is one of those things, leveraging tools, learning how to do things differently is always the way to go. And I think with these tools, it's really going to help the small business owner, because we before did not have access to a lot of this intelligence and I would say quality information. And now we can have a lot of those at our fingertips. So it's going to be great for the small business owner. All right. Okay. Have a good evening. Take care, everybody. Thank you so much for joining.